All right. So Washington hosting their second game in a row, week 2 against the Giants, who lost to the Broncos pretty big, but they were pretty competitive through like 3 quarters. Is this a must-win game? I mean, if you look at the rest of the schedule or the upcoming schedule, they got the Bills week 3, then Falcons, Saints, Chiefs, Packers, Broncos, Bucks. Can they go 0-2? Like this to me, like I felt like the Chargers was week 1 was as like must win as it gets for a week 1 game, which is kind of weird, but it was such a demoralizing loss that I think if they go 0-2 with this, upcoming brutal schedule, now they're down to Taylor Heineke, it's not looking good. Mike, is this a must win?
This is absolutely a must win. I mean, it's not the definition of a must win because it's not like we lose and we're out of the playoffs. They could pull off some Cinderella Houdini act and win, 3 of the Bills, Falcons, Saints, Chiefs, Packers, but I just don't see it. Demoralizing was the right word for what happened on Sunday against the Chargers. They went into that game being so confident. The fans were more enthusiastic than they've been in years. And then first drive of the game, the Chargers just shredded them. They did whatever they wanted. And the strength of this team was supposed to be our defense. Our defense looked terrible. Chase Young had to be moved off of Rashawn Slater because he couldn't get anything done against Rashawn Slater. Sweat actually did a little bit better. But like you said, looking at the schedule, I mean, if they don't pick it up, I can't imagine that we're going to win at Bills. At Falcons is always going to be tough. Saints at home, but you saw what they did to the Packers, the Chiefs to the Chiefs. And then, by that time it's week 7 or 8, you're playing against the Packers. The Broncos are no slouches. If we go 0-2, there's a good chance that we could go 0-8. They have to win.
I think so, man. I think I think so many homers will say that, hey, it was a close game against the Chargers. It was just 1 score away. That Gibson fumble, that was the dagger. But watching that game, I felt like if the Chargers needed to, they could have dropped 30 plus on this defense. Like they really were running up and down the field at will. I mean, Keenan Allen dropped that easy touchdown that almost never happens. We got super lucky on some ghost fumble that Herbert had in our red zone. Right. They just made it seem way too easy. And I know Daniel Jones isn't Justin Herbert, but I feel like, the Chargers had a brand new head coach, new offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, a bunch of new guys in their offensive line. Like it was just the game plan. It was the coaching. They came in with the perfect game plan, 2 or 3 step drops, get rid of the ball. Don't let the defensive line even have a shot at sniffing you. And Washington seemed to be playing a zone defense all day long. And Keenan, I mean, we got a couple breaks, right? The William Jackson interception, that Justin Herbert goofy fumble he had. But
right.
I watched the Giants and Broncos game, and I was just so impressed with the connection he had, what Jones had with Galladay, Shepard, even Slayton caught a couple bombs. And I don't know, in recent memory, Daniel Jones tears us up. He's 4-0 against Washington.
Right.
He's 100 quarterback rating against us.
Yeah, it's hard to believe too against this vaunted Washington defense. And Daniel Jones hasn't played great against most other teams. I don't know what his stats are exactly, but Daniel Jones doesn't light the world on fire. No. And for a team that's supposed to have this unreal defensive line, I think you had sent me something. It was a tweet that was saying that Justin Herbert had, I think he was pressured on 12% of the plays or something, and that's against the best defensive line in football. You look at the talent on that defensive line, and there's no way that it should have been that bad. And I think you nailed it. It was coaching. It was a badly called game. The fact that Terry McLaurin didn't have a single target while Ryan Fitzpatrick was out there makes no sense. I mean, Fitz looked terrible. He ended up 3 for 6 for 13 yards before he went out. Like, that's a joke. I mean, Heineke 11 for 15, 122 yards, touchdown. He ended up with like a 120 passer rating. But when you look at Taylor Heineke's pro career, it looks like this is going to be the first time that a team has actually had the opportunity to prep for him as the starting quarterback. You look at what he did against the Bucks, and that was admirable, but the Bucks had no idea what to expect. And then he played pretty well against the Chargers, but he came in the second quarter. Like they were game planning for Fitz, not for Heineke. So I really worry about the Giants being able to prepare for this game. And you and I have been fans for a long time, and we know the drill. We know what happens on primetime Washington games. We know what happens on Thursday night. Like unless it's Thanksgiving, we're usually not winning on Thursday night. So I'm really, really worried about it. I think if we have any shot at this game, we're going to have to force feed our playmakers the ball. Like Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, and Logan Thomas need to be getting the ball every single play. It doesn't matter if it's just like screens to Terry, just get him the ball and see what he can do. And then
what we saw
down the field.
Yeah, we just saw a couple nights ago or last night how the Raiders relentlessly will just find ways to get Waller, targeted. And
they won.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying McLaurin is Darren Waller. No one is Darren Waller, but like 7 total targets combined, 7 for McLaurin and Logan Thomas.
Yeah,
they caught all 7 of those. They caught all 7 of those targets. Like, I don't know what they're doing on offense. Like, and when I talk to you about it, I'm like, I think if Alex Smith I can't stand Alex Smith, but I think if Alex Smith is in that game, we could have moved the ball better. Even, I don't know, get the ball into McKissick's hands, continue to get, Gibson the ball, target McLaurin as many times. How many targets McLaurin had last year? 150, 145, something like
140
that.
About, yeah.
110 for Logan Thomas. Like, we weren't explosive offensively at all. We were one of the worst offenses in the league, but you have to rely on these guys. And I've seen so many media outlets and, Twitter heads talking about how like the one takeaway from this game was, they love the usage for Antonio Gibson. Do we win this game with that same mentality, with that same scheme of practically forcing the run with Gibson? Or do you think that happened because they felt like Fitzpatrick was getting, too much pressure in his face, so they had to, offset it with the run, and they had to, slide Heineke in there and get him comfortable? So you think that happened just based off the game? It was low scoring. They're trying to keep the Chargers offense off the field, or do you think that's what Rivera and Scott Turner think is like their recipe for success is 20 plus rushes for Gibson, and like forget about the
everybody else,
the modern day game?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any way that they went into that game thinking that they were going to like rely that heavily on the run. I think you had touched on it, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but Fitz had no time to make a decision, so they ended up going to Gibson for the run. And then when they get Heineke in there, I know that he put on 15 pounds of muscle, but I think that they're still scared of him breaking. Like the Chargers pass rush was pretty. It looked pretty fierce against our ragtag O-line. And I think they didn't want to risk Heineke getting hurt, so they ended up forcing the run more than they probably should have.
Yeah, I'll say this: I don't feel like it's a significant drop off from Fitzpatrick to Heineke. Heineke's history of injuries is worrisome. He's a small guy, but
right.
I talked to you, man. Like, there's something that I see when I'm watching, football on Sundays. It's the modern day quarterback, the Mahomes, the like Lamar Jackson, the Baker Mayfields, the Staffords. It's these guys that are able to do things with that football. Like that's not, it's not with the play script. Like it's off script. It's the play breaks down and they move the pocket or they juke the, pass rusher and, find the open man. Like it wasn't drawn up to be like that, but they make the play. Heineke has that ability, man. I think he's got a little bit of that Baker Mayfield in him.
He's definitely that
think-
kind of play. I think Mayfield's probably his ceiling for Taylor Heineke, but like you said, that's not how you draw it up. Like having the ability to fall back onto that is great, but like you're not going to go into a game and just be like, all right, well, just snap the ball, the play will break down, and then you can figure it out. Like that's not what you don't want to have to rely on that. Like they're going to need a more solid game. But it is nice that Heineke is able to fall back on that. But I don't know. I think you're right. It's not much of a drop off there. I think there was a legitimate reason for a QB competition in camp. I know that Fitz really had the job locked up the entire time. But I think that Heineke did kind of deserve a shot. He didn't look too great in camp, but I think he might just be one of those guys that doesn't look that great in practice because that's what he does. He scrambles, he finds a way to make things happen, and like you're not going to get that in practice. I don't know. I don't think I'm not really fading the football team too much because of Heineke. I'm fading them more so because Chase Young, like I said earlier, Chase Young had to be moved off of a rookie, like because he couldn't do anything against Slater. Like that was, defensive player of the year, hopeful, superstar, edge rusher, Chase Young, like the best player on our team that couldn't get anything done against a rookie in his first game in the NFL. So I think that's what's going to be our undoing is if our defense plays that way again, there's no way we're going to win on Thursday.
Yeah. And I think that's why the over under is at 41 because they basically don't see the Giants scoring 3 touchdowns, right? Like that's what it seems like to me. They don't think the Giants could have a big offensive showing. I worry about our that secondary too, man. Like I tweeted this today. Like it seems like the rotation defensively in the secondary, especially, is overkill. Like I want to say I saw a stat that showed that Cam Curl was on the field for somewhere around 50% of the snaps. Cam Curl needs to be on the field at all times. At all times. Do whatever type of rotation you want to do with Bobby McClain and Landon Collins, St. Juste and Fuller, like your linebackers, your line. You want to please get more Matt Ioannidis in there. Figure out if Tim Settle could stuff the middle of that pocket.
Right.
Give Jonathan Allen a break. But I worry that they're, they have so many like safeties that they're trying to find ways for them to contribute. Like Cam Crow needs to stay on the field. Like bottom line. Right. I strongly believe in like players finding their rhythm in games, and I think that's important. And,
I'm looking at it right now. Cam Curl played 46% of the snaps. Landon Collins played 80% and Bobby McCain played 85%. I know that on paper, I guess Collins and McCain being the veterans and, maybe people think Cam Curl hasn't quite earned it yet. He was a 7th-round draft pick for a reason. Landon Collins getting paid $20 million a year to be here. So like they want those guys to be on the field, but I agree with you. I think Cam Curl makes plays. He was one of the bright spots, I thought, on our defense on Sunday. And I think the rotations, I think it's another thing like it's just like the amount of rushes for Antonio Gibson. I don't think that was the game plan coming in, but they looked gassed. Like I saw football team players on the sideline, like getting IVs, like they just looked exhausted. And I don't know why. I mean, that's what practice is for. Like you've been doing this for 4 months. You should be able to run 7 plays in a row without needing like a ventilator and an IV. That I think that was part of it. I'm hoping that they can get it together, but on this short week, I'm not hopeful.
Yeah, I'm not either. There's too many signs, that point to what this team has been for the last 20 plus years. Too many signs that show it's gonna be another letdown. I mean, like you mentioned early on, the crowd was so ready to explode at FedEx, and I don't think they're not going to show up the same way they did on Sunday. They're not. And I feel another letdown coming. So that's why I'm taking Giants money line. I think the X factor for me is Heineke, because I have that memory of him like balling out against the Bucks. And you're absolutely right. The Bucks had no idea what was coming. They didn't know whether it was going to be, Steve Montez, at quarterback,
right,
or Alex Smith or whoever, but he makes plays. Heineke makes plays, and he will throw it up there for McLaurin, and McLaurin will make some like ungodly catch. And then he'll, fake the flat to McLaurin and threw a strike to Logan Thomas in the end zone. He kept us in this game, man.
They'll run for 40 yards.
Yeah,
same drive. Yeah, I could see it.
It's exciting. He gives us a spark. He's the X factor, man. They need to protect this guy. They can't allow him to get hurt either. Like I don't really want to see Kyle Allen or some random person off the street running this team, or else the season's a complete wash. So
fingers crossed, man. I think you're right on all of the betting advice. I think the Giants are just too +4. I think is too tempting for me. I would take that. I think that Washington could win this game. I mean, like you said, Heineke could surprise everyone and we could blow him out, but it doesn't seem likely. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I like Sterling Shepard a lot coming out of the slot. I think that one of the weakest points of the Washington football team are those linebackers. Cole Holcomb didn't look too bad, but Jamin Davis was essentially non-existent. I think Shepard's going to have a great day. Galladay might actually be shut down a little bit. I mean, if Jackson is shadowing him, I know that Jackson has he has a reputation for being one of the better shadow corners in the league. We might actually be able to shut Galladay down a little bit. I think Shepard's going to have a heck of a day though.
Yeah, I have memories of like Darius Slayton like carving us up for a couple long bombs. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
That's why we got Jackson.
We'll see, man. Hopefully I'm wrong and they go 1-1 and they're 1-1 and maybe they the Eagles lose to the Niners and then Cowboys lose to the Chargers.
Right.
Like we could be
sitting in first place pretty soon.
It's a must-win game. It's absolutely a must-win game.
Agreed.